Now today's video is going to be a continuation, kind of a continuation of my last videos. I have been checking out this Marantz receiver, and I had mentioned input sensitivity, so today I'm going to take a quick look at that for those that don't know what that is or how you measure it. If we look at the specs here, it says input sensitivity 150 millivolts. Basically what that means is we have to feed in a signal of at least 150 millivolts to get the rated power output, which in this case would be 15 watts per channel into 8 ohms. And the method I'm going to be using is the method that was used well, when this unit came out, and it's also the original method I learned. There was another method after that, I think it was like in the 80s, where they used like a lower output instead of the rated output, but I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to go ahead and use the specs from back then. I just want to see basically if the specs, if my receiver matches the specs basically in a ballpark manner. I mean, this isn't a laboratory setting here, and it's not an exact science, and I'm not really too concerned about the 100% exactness. So let me go ahead and start. First I have to let everything warm up, of course, the test equipment and the receiver. So I have here to measure the output from the speakers, my old AC voltmeter. Now I do need a couple of pieces of equipment, a dummy load. This is an 8 ohm dummy load, and these wires here are basically, they're coming from the audio, or rather the AC voltmeter. That's where I'm going to be getting the readings from, and of course the loudspeaker cables are coming from the speaker terminals. I also have a scope hooked up. I always like to monitor the signal. Of course, here can you see the receiver itself, it's kind of all torn apart. What else can I mention here? Of course, this cable here is going into the aux input, and if you've seen my last videos, you know I've got this adapter. Here's Y adapter. Of course, we also need a audio generator to put out the 1000 hertz sine wave, which I'm going to be using, and that, of course, that generator is on my bench here. I can't show it at the moment. It actually doesn't matter. I mean, you just use what you have at home. And here's a scope I'm using to monitor. It's just a cheap digital scope. I could use my other one, but that's not on the shelf right now, and it would be a hassle putting it on my workbench since my workbench is so small. Now, how about the receiver itself? Anything we have to do to it? Not really. We have to put all the, of course, we have to let it warm up, and we have to put all of the tone controls, filters in a neutral position. The balance control has to be in the middle. Right now I've got the volume control all the way turned down, since the specs said I have to feed in 150 millivolts to get rated power output. Now, what I am going to do is hook up the audio generator directly to my voltmeter to see if I'm getting that 150 millivolts, and then I'll hook everything back up, and then I'll slowly go ahead and bring my volume control up, or rather I'll turn up the volume, and then I'll watch the output at the meter here. I think once I reach 11 volts, that would be 15 watts per channel. That is 11 volts AC RMS. And I would, at the same time, I'm going to keep an eye on the scope. Now I have the audio generator directly hooked up to the voltmeter, and it looks like I'm at about, well, 150 millivolts. So that's what I'm supposed to be actually feeding in to get the full rated output. Now I changed the range of my AC voltmeter. Right now I am on the 0.3 volt range. I had to do that in order to see the 150 millivolts I was feeding in, which was about right there. I'm going to switch to the 30 volt range because I know that, because of my chart that I'm using, that if I have 11 volts here, I'm going to be at 15 watts per channel. So basically I'm going to be at the rated power output, and of course then I can't leave it on the 0.3 volt range because my needle's really going to peg out. So I'm ready to do the test now. I'll go ahead and turn the volume control all the way up. Again, the sensitivity means basically here that if I feed in 150 millivolts, or at least 150 millivolts, then I'm going to get the rated power output. So we'll see if it does that. I'll go ahead and turn things up. Of course, the input frequency is just a standard 1000 hertz. So what do I have here? It's actually a little bit less. It's around 10.5 volts, not 11 volts, so it's half a volt low. So I would have to turn the AC, I would have to turn the audio generator up a little bit in order to get the rated power output. But for me, it's close enough. It's not 100% on spec, but it's very close. But I'll go ahead and just turn up the output of the audio generator just a little bit. Say I'll take it to 160 millivolts and see if that brings it up to the rated power output. So now I had to disconnect everything, had to hook up the audio generator directly up to the voltmeter again. I'll go ahead and go up a little bit in the output. Oh, wrong way. And I will try to feed in 160, or I can try 155. So I'm not sure. I can't get it exactly on there. Well, it's pretty close enough. Let's say it's right over 155 millivolts. So let's see what it does to the output now. Okay, now the input went up from 150 to 155 millivolts. I have the volume control all the way down, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it all the way up. Let's see if that brings us to, oh, one thing I forgot to do, I forgot to change the range. If not, the pointer would have pegged out. So now I am correct. And let's see if we can go up to 11 volts, which is 15 watts per channel. And oh yeah, that actually did the job. And we'll take a look at the scope. And right now, looking at the scope, I'm feeding in an even higher signal, and my output's already at 11.5 volts. It's 12 or more, and it should be going into clipping. It is actually there. You can see that at the bottom there, it's flattening out. So let me go ahead and go back into the safe zone. So all in all, I can say I just had to add 5 millivolts of signal, of input signal, to get the rated power output. Oh, basically it was 5 millivolts away from the specifications. So I guess this is okay. I don't have anything else to add now for this particular video. Thanks for watching.